From top to bottom, this week's episode of NXT was a nightmare. Of course, we're talking about the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, dashing on down to Orlando to say hello to some friends, as well as Wendy Choo waking up from her nightmare. We're talking about all of this and more. This is About Last Night. Wendy Choo is awake and would debut her new character tonight. Backstage before the match, we got a promo with Brinley Reese talking to Malik Blade and Idris Enofe about Wendy Choo. They tell her to be careful because they've noticed some things that are off about Wendy. Brinley shrugs it off and says that Wendy is a beautiful person, an absolute sweetheart, and that she and Brinley are going to have a great time. Reese makes her entrance, followed by Wendy Choo, and we get a new look, a new theme, and an overall new demeanor. Now, in this match, Wendy would physically dominate every aspect of it. She would win with a grapevine Cobra clutch, and Brinley Reese would very, very lethargically tap out before she went to sleep. This is Wendy's new gimmick, right? She is going to be putting people to sleep all over the place, and I love it. Later backstage, Carly Bright is talking to the other women in the locker room. She turns around to say hello to Wendy Choo, but Choo just stares her down and then exits the scene. So to me, it looks like Carly Bright will soon get to experience this nightmare version of Wendy Choo firsthand. I'm guessing the two of them have a match next week, but like I said, I love this version of Wendy Choo. I was never a huge fan of the happy-go-lucky, sleepy Wendy Choo character. I thought it was kind of cheesy. But this one works. It works because she's selling it really, really well, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's next for Nightmare Wendy Choo. Thanks for hanging out with me on About Last Night here on the Rumble Rewind channel. Would you please do me a quick favor and hit that like button? And if you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe. We're getting closer and closer to that first goal of 200 subscribers, and once we get there, we're doing the best giveaway in the world. If you want to stay up to date with all the information, turn on those post notifications so you never miss an upload. Kalani Jordan would actually open the show, and she would cut a promo about being the first North American Women's Champion and what an honor it was to be able to set the bar for that championship. And this was a really solid promo by Kalani, but she's still just not on the level of some of the other NXT superstars, but I do think that this championship run will give her a chance to do that. Honestly, though, as I look back and I look at some of the other work of some of the other competitors, I think Sol Ruca and Fallon Henley would probably have been pretty similar. Now, the exception to that is Jada Parker, and she would actually interrupt this promo and come out and begin talking about Kalani and how the only thing that she proved at Battleground was that she can climb a ladder like a squirrel. Now, during this promo, Michin would actually attack from behind, and this would start a match between the two of them. Now, late in the match, Jada Parker would go and get a chair from under the ring and attempt to take it into the ring to use it. However, Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows would come out. Anderson would take the chair away from Parker, and Michin would pick up the win. So I don't know if this is sowing seeds for an OTM-OC feud. Later in the night, Parker is backstage talking to the other members of OTM about how they handle their own business. Yeah, they all come out together, but then they don't stay out there. They don't interfere in one another's matches. Parker says that she wants another shot at Michin and she wants to run her out of NXT. Later, we would also see a backstage segment with Michin and the Good Brothers, Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows, talking about Michin's win over Jada Parker, and we find out in this segment that Michin is actually going to get a shot against Kalani Jordan and be her first challenger next week. Now, I think that's great. Michin's going to be a great first challenger. Kalani will probably get the win and retain. It'll be a meaningful win. I am thinking that Jada is going to be Kalani's first true feud, and I believe she's definitely going to get involved in whatever this Kalani Jordan Michin match looks like. I am confused, though, about Michin and the OC's current relationship. They continue to talk to one another as if the OC is still together, but it's been tumultuous on SmackDown. Michin is playing a heavy face character right now, and Gallows and Anderson are playing heavy heel characters right now. So I'm really curious how they're going to kind of work that all together. I do hope that they make it make sense. I would like to see Michin turn heel at some point and get back on track with the OC over on SmackDown. Moving on, there were several other storylines that moved forward in significant ways. Backstage, we would see Chase U and all of the guys of Chase U bickering about trust and about Ridge Holland specifically. Riley Osborne and Duke Hudson said it was hard to trust him and nothing good had happened since he started. From there, Thea Hale would come in and she would go all the way off. She said that Riley was an outsider before they brought him in. She said that Andre Chase definitely gambled away the entire university and they allowed him to stay. And that Duke, when he came in, everybody said he couldn't be trusted, and yet here they are. She said Chase U gives everyone a chance, and that's not a teachable moment, it's just a fact. This was fire from Thea Hale. This might have been her best promo work that she's done, and I know she's known for these high energy, in-your-face type of promos and segments, and that's her character, but this one was really, really well done. It was very believable, it felt very authentic, and I loved the way that Thea Hale has portrayed herself throughout this. But this was a great segment to move the Chase U story forward. I'm still curious where it goes. Do they move this Chase U story into a breakup, or do they come back around and repair it? Does Ridge turn heel? Does Riley Osborne and Duke Hudson turn heel? Who knows? That's one of my favorite things about the story is I don't know what the end game is, and I'm enjoying the process to getting there. Moving on, let's talk about the Gallus boys. We would get a replay of their Battleground backstage beatdown of Wes Lee. If you didn't see Battleground, not sure what I'm talking about, check out the recap right here. I'll tell you everything you need to know. Now, Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne would send a video telling Gallus that they didn't like this 3-on-1 assault, that they were friends of Wes Lee, and that they would be here to back up Wes Lee and take them on tonight. This would lead us into a 6-man tag match with Tyler Bate, Pete Dunne, and Wes Lee teaming up against all the members of Gallus. Now, Gallus got the win after a classic everybody dive on a big pile of wrestlers at ringside moment. From there, Wes and Joe would end up back in the ring, where Wes would hit him with a Meteora for a near fall. After that, Wes would try to go off the top rope, but Joe would dodge it and hit him with the discus lariat for the win. Now, this was a much needed, truly dominant looking win for the Gallus boys. I'll say it again. I want to see something meaningful out of these guys. It seems like they live in this limbo, but Joe Coffey is truly a compelling character with a ton of potential. I don't really love Mark Coffey and Wolfgang without Joe, but the three of them together are great. I really enjoy watching them, and I really hope that they do something with these characters. I just want to see a story go from start to finish. But tell me what you think in the comments below. What do you think that WWE should do with Gallus? I do wish, though, that Wes Lee had teamed up with some NXT guys. Why couldn't Wes Lee team up with Nathan Frazer and Axiom or somebody like that to really keep that talent in-house? I think they've got the guys there to make a compelling story. They have such a good tag team division that's, for the most part, just sitting around. Speaking of Nathan Frazer and Axiom, we would get a segment later in the evening with Bate and Dunne hanging out with the tag team champions. At this point, Tony D'Angelo and the family would enter with the Heritage Cup and sort of have this random conversation where Tony said that he would be happy to educate any of them on how the Heritage Cup works. It's funny because everybody in the room had been former Heritage Cup champions. The interesting thing here was Nathan Frazer's reaction. Throughout the whole segment, he just kind of stares longingly at the cup, and he tells Axiom how much he misses being Heritage Cup champion. And he just continues to stare at it even after Tony and the family leave. His eyes follow the cup. The Heritage Cup is really starting to seem like it has some sort of grip on most of its former champions. And I wonder if they're doing something with that. I hope they are, because to me, it seems very subtle, but it's very interesting in the way that it has affected those guys who no longer hold the cup. I do think that there's something happening here storyline-wise, and I'm excited to see it play out. I wonder if they're turning it into like a low-key version of the Undertaker's urn, where it has control over people. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see. For me, I hope that there's something more to it than just some subtle random things that I happen to notice. All right, moving on, let's talk about Dante Chen and Lexis King. Tonight we will be getting a Singapore cane match between Dante Chen and Lexis King. Now, prior to that match, Sarah Schreiber would interview Chen about this upcoming fight. Chen says that he's going to end this feud on his terms. And after a brief segment introducing the 2024 NIL signings, King would make his entrance. Before he could make it to the ring, though, Dante Chen would attack him from behind with the cane, and the match would begin. Now, late in the match, King would actually use his scepter to hit Chen with a low blow and then another to the throat. He'd follow that up with a coronation and get the win. Now, King going over here makes total sense to me. He was 0-2 versus Dante Chen coming into this and really needed this win. What I like about it is it actually can extend this feud a little bit. They've put on some great matches so far. This was another one of those great matches. So I'm interested to see in what's next for both men. How do they go forward from here? I don't think the feud can just be over, as King got the last win, but he's still down 1-2 on points, if you will. So tell me your thoughts, though. How do you feel about Dante Chen moving up to the main roster of NXT, if you will? How do you feel about this feud, and what do you think is next for both King and Chen? All right, let's talk about a couple of other interesting moments that happened throughout the night. We did get a video package of Sol Ruca talking more about her Battleground experience and just who she is individually. This was good work from Sol, but she is one of the ones that I think needs more mic work than she does in ring time. So I would love to see Sol Ruca in a meaningful feud that allows her to get that promo work in. She had a short feud against Blair Davenport a little while back, but it wasn't very long lasting. I'd love to see her get some actual in-ring mic work to help her move forward and move up the card a little bit. Now, coming back from a commercial break, we did get a weird moment where Vic Joseph and Booker T were approached again, and the cameras kind of didn't show it, but you can see here that it was in fact Brooks Jensen. Just like last week, he enters the arena. This time he kind of rips the top off the announce table before he's escorted out by security. It was heavily rumored that Brooks had been released from the company because of his social media. He even appeared at an indie show recently, and so all of these rumors were swirling about him being let go. But it looks like all of that is a kayfabe storyline that I hope is leading to some sort of connection to the Shawn Spears story. What do you think about Brooks Jensen? How do you feel about this kind of social media strategy that WWE has right now where things happen in the ring and on social media? I'm about it. I think it's fun. I think it makes the product seem more realistic, and there's a lot of moments like that that feel more can't miss because they're only found on social media. After that, we would get a video package for the returning Eddie Thorpe. Eddie Thorpe would have a match against Tavion Heights. Now, this was a pretty decent back and forth match. Thorpe gets the win off of a brain buster, and honestly, he looked great in his return. I'll be interested to see how they build him up. He's really, really good in the ring. He had a lot of time on the independents before he came into NXT. I think if they build him up, he could be the one to take on Obafemi down the line. If he's a compelling character, it would make sense. He's got the size to compete with him, and the in-ring work speaks for itself. Now, out of that match, we would see the No Quarter Catch crew backstage. Dempsey tells Miles Bourne and Damon Kemp that he really liked what he saw out of Tavion Heights. He orders Miles Bourne to go and get him. Miles Bourne acts confused, but Dempsey finally says, "Don't you dare question me." Ends it with the capiche. Miles Bourne walks out to try to figure out what he's supposed to do. But this is just more of Dempsey trying to be Tony D'Angelo and build up his own family. And I get it. Again, this goes back to the Heritage Cup and how it affects the previous champions. Charlie Dempsey is obsessed with the Heritage Cup, and by extension, obsessed with Tony D'Angelo and the way he runs his family. I'm curious to see how this all goes. You can see the obsession and the confusion and all of that in Charlie Dempsey, but the other guys in the No Quarter Catch crew don't seem to be on board. Like, they don't get it. And so it's going to be interesting to see the dynamic of this team, and I really like where they're moving. In fact, I kind of like the way that they've got a bunch of these kind of side stories happening. They keep these short segments keep people relevant when they're not on screen in bigger ways. For example, Charlie Dempsey hasn't had a match in a couple weeks, but he's still been on screen every week. Now, these stories move too slow for the main stories, but as far as side quest goes and side stories, it keeps more people on TV, and then when they're needed for the bigger moments, they're not strangers. And so I love the way that NXT does it. It's how they are able to cram so much into a 2-hour show is by these tiny little segments here and there that move the story forward just enough to keep you interested. Speaking of nightmares, as we talked about at the top of the show, let's talk about the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, making his return to NXT to just, talk to some people, hang out, be friends, shake hands, kiss babies, you know how it is for the politician. And he went to kind of hype up his upcoming match at Clash at the Castle. After his promo was just about done, Trick Williams would make his entrance, and he would ask Cody how he manages the pressure. Cody said that, now you've gone from being the hunter to being the hunted, and you've gone from having the support of your friends to getting the judgment of your friends. He said, but for Trick, there's always another mountain to climb, and he kind of held up the Undisputed Championship. Now, Cody also said that he was there to announce Trick's next opponent, and that opponent would be decided next week in a 25-man over-the-top rope battle royal. He said, though, this is the key point, the most interesting part of the whole segment, that Trick may know some of them, but some will be from other locker rooms. Now, obviously, that probably means that we'll get some Raw and SmackDown competitors in this battle royal, but my suspicion is that we will see some more TNA crossover. It is my hope that someone from NXT wins it. I really hope that these crossover events are used sparingly. I want them to continue to feel like a big deal, and if they just keep doing it, then it becomes not something worth talking about. Tell me your thoughts, though, on the crossovers, though. I would love to know how you feel about those. Now, this segment would end with a pretty funny moment where Trick asked Cody if he was coming to the cookout, and Cody said yes, he'll be there. Later in the night, we got a couple more segments with Cody Rhodes, one being an interaction between him and Jacy Jayne. As you know, Jacy Jayne got her nose broken by Thea Hale, and so Cody finds her backstage and says, hey, you're just the person I was looking for, and he hands her something, and it is the undashing Cody Rhodes face mask. And in this moment, Jacy Jayne acts absolutely starstruck. Her and Jasmine Nix both have no idea what to say, no idea what to do, but as the scene closes, you can see this huge smile on Jacy Jayne's face. And I don't know what's going on with that. I do believe that Jacy Jayne was smiling because she finally found one of the My Faction oddities for WWE 2K24. If you don't know what I'm talking about with that, check out this video. Later, we would get another backstage segment with Cody Rhodes, and at this point, he would cross paths with Ethan Page, Alexis King, and Shawn Spears. All three of them would attempt to assert their dominance and a claim at winning next week's Battle Royal. Cody looked at all of them and said, it looks like you guys are all in a good place. Now, this was a direct shot at AEW. All three of those guys spent time in AEW, and all three of them were kind of stuck in limbo over there. I don't really get into the whole this versus that as much. I don't really watch AEW. I've grown up on WWE. I love WWE. I've tried to watch AEW, and I think just because I haven't, it's hard for me to connect with the characters because I don't know who they are. So if you're a huge AEW fan and you think I should be, tell me some AEW moments or matches that I should go watch that would help me connect with it and understand it. All right, the main event of the evening was a match between Javon Evans and Shawn Spears. Now, this feud kicked off last week, and if you're not sure what I'm talking about, check out this video and I'll tell you all about it. When Shawn Spears attacked Josh Briggs backstage with a chair, Javon Evans stepped in, came to his aid, and we got a brawl as a result. Now, because of that brawl, we are headed towards this match tonight. This was a great match, honestly. Both men put in some work. Now, late in the match, both guys are outside. Javon Evans goes for a springboard toward the announce table. Spears dodges it, and Javon goes face first into the edge of the announce table. Spears throws Evans back in the ring and hits him with the C4 to pick up the win. Now, this was a huge win and much needed win for Shawn Spears. The good things for Javon Evans, he really loses nothing in this loss because he is a rookie who lost to a veteran in a very, very competitive match. Now, I do believe that this is going to play into Spears' character as he looks to sort of guide these young minds. He's going to be able to say to Javon, see, this is what happens. I can help you. But will we see Javon go that direction? I don't think so. Javon's a huge babyface. They've got big babyface plans for him. Now, I do like the idea of a Spears-led faction. I think it could end up being some sort of like creepy Nexus kind of feel where they attack people who they think have jumped the line and things like that. I like this idea. We'll see where it goes. While that was the main event of the evening, it wouldn't close the show. Jumping back to the beginning of the show, we would see Roxanne Perez, and we would learn that tonight she will be giving the State of the Women's Division address. Byron Saxton would catch up with her in the parking lot and ask for a little preview. Robert Stone would enter the scene and ask the same question, saying that Ava would really like to know what she's going to say. Roxanne says that everyone can find out what she's going to say the same way she found out her Battleground opponent, and that was later tonight in the ring. Before Roxanne would come give this address, we would get another backstage segment with Ava and Robert Stone speaking in Ava's office, and Stevie Turner would enter the scene. And she said that she might have some information for them. We don't know what that is. We don't see much more of that, but we do learn one thing, and that is that Stevie Turner is a snitch. Not cool, Stevie. All right, so just before the show closes, Roxanne would come out and give this State of the Women's Division address. She would cut a promo on Jordynne Grace and on Ava and basically end it saying, "And still your women's champion, Roxanne Perez." Ava made her entrance and gave Roxanne a sarcastic congratulations and let Roxanne know that all the things that she's complaining about are just part of being a champion. Eventually, though, Jacy Jayne with Jasmine Nix would be followed by Lash Legend and Jakara Jackson, and finally Lola Vice would all come out and cut promos about why they should be at the front of the line. Eventually, Lola would just kick Jakara Jackson in the face, and she and Perez would end up clearing the ring of all the other women and kind of give each other a brief stare down, and that's where the show would just sort of end. It went off the air. Just like that. This segment was kind of a rare miss, especially in a closing segment. It shows more of what I mean, though, as far as the state of the NXT women's division. It is very deep, but the question is who's going to challenge Roxanne right now? There's not any other really strong faces on the roster. All three of these women who came out and cut promos are all heels. And so is Roxanne, so they're all heels stepping up to a heel Roxanne. If you watched Monday Night Raw and saw the Finn Balor versus Drew McIntyre match, it's just very, very difficult to book it well that way. But I don't know that we have any strong faces that are ready to make a run. And maybe I'm wrong. I got a comment on my last video that made me rethink my stance on the NXT women's division as a whole and made me rethink my stance on Roxanne Perez and her skill set. However, I don't see a face that can really make a run. Lash Legend is probably the one that could most easily turn face, but that would mean leaving Metaphor. And I think that the work that's being done in Metaphor is great. Jacy Jayne could do really well in a title run. I think she's capable of carrying the title and carrying the brand. But again, that's a heel versus heel feud, and it probably wouldn't work. So that leaves us with Lola Vice. And like I said in my Battleground review, she's just not quite ready. She's ready to move into that conversation. I think her mic work is pretty good. Her in-ring skills are pretty good. And I don't think a losing feud to Roxanne really does anything to help any of these women. And it especially doesn't help Lola Vice. Lola's kind of heating up. She got that big win over Shayna Baszler and needs to continue moving forward in that. So give me your thoughts here. Genuinely interested to know, who do you think should be Roxanne's next challenger for the Women's Championship? I would love to see, like I said, them begin to build this top layer of the women's division. There are some great competitors on the heel side of things, but we need more baby faces to be in that conversation. All right, so overall, this show for me was about a 7.5 out of 10. There was some highlights, there was some excitement, and this show honestly was great for a PLE follow-up show. We did get some must-see moments, some high-quality stuff. I would say go out of your way to see the Dante Chen and Lexis King match if you didn't. And man, Wendy Chu, she's the highlight of the night for me. The return was great. The character that she's playing is awesome. I love it. I love it. I love it. I hope they stick with this for a while. But other than that, it was just kind of a really solid episode, with the ending being the thing that took it down a bit. Throughout the whole episode, I was entertained. I was invested. And then that last segment just sort of fell flat and brought it down a bit. So I would, like I said, I would give this one about a 7.5 out of 10. But tell me your thoughts below. Give me your overall rating of this episode of NXT, and let me know the highlights of the night for you. All right, well, that is it for today and for this episode of NXT. Thanks for hanging out with me on About Last Night here on the Rumble Rewind channel. Before you go, would you please do me a quick favor and hit that like button? And if you're not subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe. We are pushing forward. We're getting closer and closer to that first goal of 200 subscribers. And once we get there, we're doing the best giveaway in the world. So make sure you're eligible for that by subscribing to the channel. If you want to stay up to date with all the information, turn on those post notifications so you never miss an upload. Thanks again for hanging out with me today. We'll see you next time.